Good morning, everybody, and warm welcome from a fairly chilly and wettish Johannesburg. But we are going to talk about plumbing designations today, just to give the guys a bit of guidance and maybe a bit of clarity regarding designations, and specifically when issuing COCs. So let's get right into it. I can just get this thing to move. When I wanted it to move, it didn't want to. Right. So the designations we are talking about today are number one, a licensed plumber. Then the specialization designations, solar qualified installer and a heat pump qualified installer. Okay, so let's have a look. I like to compare this to a driver's license. Now, Mr. Preston here, as you can see, has got an EB code driver's license with no restrictions. And EB means that he can, or he's got a license to drive a motor vehicle, a light motor vehicle, and he can actually tow a caravan. There are no restrictions. In other words, if he had a restriction, let's say number one, for instance, he would only be allowed to drive an automatic vehicle. The same goes for the other codes. If we look at a code C, for instance, it is a heavy-duty vehicle, 16,000 kilograms or 16 ton. So we've got to be careful that if we look at the driver's license situation, you can take the risk to drive a bigger vehicle or another vehicle which you're not licensed for, but obviously you will have to face the consequences if you are being stopped by a traffic officer. So, and I think this also obviously clearly applies to what we're going to talk about today. And then just the one last thing on the driver's license is that we all know in this instance, as you can see there, this is only valid until December 2022, also similar to our registration with PIRB, which needs to be renewed every year. So let's move on. A licensed plumber, and here's the requirements to be able to register as a licensed plumber. That person must have completed and passed a relevant plumbing trade test as specified in the Manpower Training Act, Section 28 or 13, and or have obtained a plumbing qualification in terms of the Skills Development Act. Then this person also needs to pass the PIRB practical written board assessment, which points more to the regulations or the SANS codes as we know them. Then this person needs to obtain 25 points over the 12-month period for his new registration. And then obviously you need to re-register every 12 months. So those are the basics as far as a licensed plumber is concerned. And if we look at the SANS codes, specifically that applies to a licensed plumber, we are looking at SANS 10400 Part P, 10252 Part 1 and 2, which is obviously water supply and drainage, and then 10254, which is electrical geyser installations. So those are the SANS code that apply to a licensed plumber. Now, if we move on, and if you look at the card, your registration card at the back, there it says clearly this person is allowed to work or is only entitled to purchase and issue a COC for the following, which is above ground, below ground drainage, rainwater drainage, cold water and hot water supply. So that's what this person is allowed to in terms of the registration and the issue of a COC. So if we look at the COC document, the codes for installations, this person then, as indicated in the green block there and the green tick mark, would be able to work on any of these systems and issue a COC for those. You will see, however, when you look at the specializations at the bottom, this person, a licensed plumber, is not allowed to work on these systems and also obviously not being able to tick those. So why we thought of doing this is to give the guys a bit more clarity We do find on the audit sometimes that a licensed plumber that doesn't have the specialization of a solar water heater system has worked on that system and then indicated a code 4, which is totally incorrect. That person is not supposed to, number one, work on that system, and number two, obviously cannot issue a COC for that. So let's look at a solar qualified installer. The requirements to register as a solar qualified installer: this person must hold a licensed plumber designation, as discussed before, and he must have completed and passed the relevant approved solar water heating accredited training, and again passed the PIRB practical written board assessment in solar water heating. So I think it's quite clear that we can see there are specific issues and specific things that needs to be addressed when one install a solar geyser. So let's look at the SANS code. Over and above for the normal SANS codes as per the licensed plumber, this person needs to be able and needs to know the SANS 10.10.6, which specifically points to the installation, maintenance, repair, and replacement of a domestic solar water heating system. And obviously, there's obvious reasons why this happens, because there are certain issues or certain ways of installing and certain components specifically designed for a solar water heater, number one. Number two, they are obviously in that context and according to that SANS code, there are non-compliances that are specifically pointing to a solar water heating system. So if you do not have the knowledge, the expertise, or the specialization in that field, you will not be able to identify some of these. And that's the main reason why I think people get confused sometimes, where they say, but I only replaced the geyser tank. If a geyser tank is in any way, shape, or form connected to a solar collector for the purposes of issuing a COC, that is then classified as a solar installation. So I think it's important that we understand that, and that we make sure that we don't overstep and we're not working on a system that we do not have the knowledge or the expertise on. So on the back of your registration card, you will see there under specializations, there it says solar qualified installer. So this person can still do all of the things that the normal licensed plumber can do, but he's now got a specialization designation as a solar qualified installer. Right, so let's look at the COC. So when issuing the COC, any of the normal indicators can be used. And in the situation where you have a solar water heating system, code 4 needs to be indicated to show and to indicate that this is a solar system. And I think one of the other things that is also important here is in the installation details. I think it's important for every person that does installations like this to specify specifically what have you installed. Was it maybe a close couple system or a split system? Was it a pump system? Was it a direct, indirect? All of this will help you going forward, so that if somebody else has worked on your installation and has changed stuff or changed anything in the installation, that you would be able to identify that. Because, I mean, we are all human, and you cannot always remember all of the installations that you have done. And on top of that, I think, just as maybe as a pointer or as a suggestion, take enough photographs from every direction of your installation so that you can prove what you have installed on the day. Because it does happen sometimes that after a year or two, even 5 years, the person comes back and says, you've installed the system and now there's something wrong. And the only way that you can prove and that you'll be able to indicate and to get all these arguments of you've done something wrong, there's only one way to argue with that, and that is by means of proof. And your COC is number one, and obviously any your invoices as well as your photographs will help you. So let's look at a heat pump installer. Heat pump installer, similar to the solar, is again a specialization area. So once again, you must hold the licensed plumber designation, and you must have completed and passed the relevant approved heat pump hot water heating accredited training, and pass the PIRB practical and written board assessment in heat pump hot water heating. So similar to the solar qualification, this is obviously a specialization. Once again, there are specific items or specific installation methods and or components that is connected to the heat pump. So once again, if a geyser is in any way connected to a heat pump, then it has been classified as a heat pump installation for the purposes of issuing the COC. In this instance, once again, the SANS codes applicable there will be your normal 10400, 10252, and 10254, plus SANS 1352, which is the installation, maintenance, repair of domestic air source heat, water heating pump system. So again, there are obviously non-compliances that might be prevalent or might be there, that you, if you do not have the knowledge or the skill or the knowledge of the SANS code, that you might miss, which will come back to bite you. So please make sure that you do not work on a system if you're not qualified for that. And once again, on the back of your registration card, you will see the same thing as per the solar water heating. Normal plumbing functions like the licensed plumber, and then the specialization indicated the heat pump qualified installer. You obviously can also have the heat pump as well as the solar water heat specialization, and they will then obviously be both indicated on the back of the card. We look at the COC for a heat pump system. Once again, you can do the normal licensed plumber, because you have to be a licensed plumber to be able to move on to the specialization. So the normal plumbing functions, or the normal hot water, cold water, sanitary ware, and all of those. And then for heat pumps specifically, code 8 needs to be indicated. So what are we looking at, or what are we certifying when we issue a COC? And that's just the bottom part of our COC document, where the plumber's name, registration number, and everything is there. And then it says, I further certify that in this instance, the above plumbing work was carried out by me or under my supervision, that it complies in all respect to the plumbing regulations, laws, national compulsory standards, and local bylaws. So I think one needs to take care, and one needs to ensure that your installation fully complies before you put your hand to paper. In this instance, you certify that this installation qualifies. So the argument of I wasn't there, or I did not know, is not going to carry any water. You guys, please be careful before you issue a COC. And that also connects, I think, to the situation that we find from time to time, that a person that does not have the specialization, or even is not even a licensed plumber, is asking a licensed plumber to issue a COC. And my personal opinion, I would steer clear of those, because you cannot say, but I did not do the installation. Somebody else has done the installation and asked me to issue the COC. If you're not happy with the installation, if you haven't seen it yourself and haven't tested it to make sure that it works, I will definitely not even consider doing it. In actual fact, I will not easily issue a COC for an installation that I haven't worked on myself. Then if we look at the important notice at the bottom, An incorrect statement of fact, including an omission, is an offense in terms of the PIRB code. So, guys, we need to remember that when you register with PIRB, there's a code of conduct that we all need to be subjected to. So this, if you do something in contrast to that, you obviously run the risk that you might face disciplinary procedures. Then it also says the completed certificate of compliance must be provided to the owner or the consumer within 5 days of the completion. And the details of the certificate must be logged electronically with the PIRB. So I do understand, and we all understand, that you do get some sticky clients that's not paying you. But if we look at this, part of the code of conduct is that you have to issue the certificate within 5 days. In actual fact, in terms of SANS 10254, it states that upon completion, you need to issue the COC document, and it needs to be handed over to the owner or the user. Then it says the relevant plumbing work that was set as compliant through the issuing of this may be possibly be audited by a PIRB auditor for compliance to the regulations. And then obviously, if this certificate of compliance has been chosen as an audit, you must cooperate fully with the PIRB auditor in allowing them to carry out the relevant audit. I must say, in general, we don't have challenges, but there are some of the guys that is, for some other reason, trying to make it difficult for the auditor to either gain access or, you know, trying to sidestep this auditing. And guys, I think what is important here is to just understand that the audit is not there to give you a hiding. It's in actual fact there to educate you and to help you to ensure that you do a good installation, a safe installation, because in the end, the SANS codes are there to protect the consumer. And obviously, if you do the installation correctly in terms of those standards, it will also protect you as the plumber. So please, this is just a request. Work with the auditor, and let's see if we can improve this industry of ours and, you know, move forward. That's basically my thing. Steve, I don't know if you want to add something in.
Yeah, morning, Kerry. Sorry, I'm a bit late in jumping in, so I've just got the last bit of what you've got. But in essence, I think that it's very positive in terms of what we see. You know, the feedback coming back from the compliance auditors is that, you know, the participation between the plumbers, although we've had our challenges with COVID, I think that, you know, overall, you know, the standard of installation has gone up, the way in which the non-compliances have been denoted have been done. But yes, in terms of what you're talking about this morning, with regards to certificates of compliance being issued by plumbers that haven't even been to site or even worked on the installation, is posing a challenge. And, you know, for whatever reason, you know, the guys are doing it. There's always that chance that it is going to be pulled up for an audit. We've had a couple already this week where the plumbers have come back and just flatly said, yeah, we didn't do this work, or we weren't there, or we didn't check. So one of the key things I think that we've seen is desktop analysis. We know that a lot of the guys are very busy. You know, they got their staff doing the installations and not particularly checking all of the photographs. And obviously when the compliance auditor gets there, they're seeing something totally different to what's being put in front of the plumber who signed it off. So I think in essence, you know, the standard is really high. I think there's very few that you know, there's small little things. But yeah, overall, I think in terms of the feedback, I think the licensed plumbers are doing exceptionally well, other than one or two that just fall through the cracks. But the positiveness of that is the individuals come back and either rectify or notify the client of those items. So it always ends up positive. And yeah, that's all I have to say in terms of that this morning, Gerrie. But a system that's working, and we can see the benefits of it.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, well, obviously, you know, in my opinion, once again, is that although some people do not like the audits, I think as an industry, and I've been asked this question actually yesterday by some of the consumers out there, is do the electricians and the other guys do the same thing? It is maybe time that they start doing that. So I think this industry is being improved by means of audits, and it just helps everybody to understand what it's all about. And also it gives the consumer the peace of mind that this is happening, and I'm now happy that when these people walk away, my installation is good, it is safe. And so, yeah, that's how I experience it. And as I say, I've been asked these questions. Does the other guys or the other industries do the same? And I don't think they do that, not to my knowledge. So I think we are one step ahead, and that's all thanks to the process and what we are doing here.
And I think,
so yeah, that's sorry.
What you were saying about the consumers, the amount of times we get a phone call or the consumers come in and the positive feedback coming back from them is that, again, it's just that backup in terms of the process and ensuring that it's there. So yeah, I think, yes, you're always going to one or two that'll moan and groan, but that's expected. But I think overall, it's gone out very positive, and it's amazing how many of the consumers are they're a little bit more at ease in terms of understanding the process. And then it's even better when you get some of the managing agents that are coming back and plumbers that defend this. I had it last week where one of the larger sort of body corporates, or rather a building with a body corporate, where the plumber stood his ground and said, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to issue this certificate without doing A, B, or C. And being very proactive, the next minute you get a phone call from the managing agent, and then you confirm, and then you show them, and all of a sudden they realize that the other geysers that have been installed, as we're talking about geysers now, have been installed incorrectly, and the questions are being asked, and now they're looking at other ways in which they can now bring it into compliance. So yes, those plumbers that stand their ground, well done.
Yes, Steve, and also connecting to what you're saying is that we find it more and more that, as you say, agents, body corporates, even the insurance companies, and lately a lot of the developers, even architects and engineers, are realizing that they need to connect to the plumber when they do development. So all of this is an awareness, and I think it's a positive thing. In the end, once again, it's all about the consumer, making sure that the installation works properly and is safe. So I think this whole situation, the fact that we do audits, is obviously a positive in my mind. So yeah, have a good day, stay safe, wear your masks, please do the right thing for the right reasons, have fun, and goodbye from my side.